Let's Talk About It. Today's topic of discussion is D.E.I. and affirmative action. I am your moderator, Nakia Hudson of 2U Wines, and I'd like to introduce Candice Hankins, Colin Jackson, and Tequila Hopkins.
It's not just having the opportunity to go in the space, but being prepared.
Educate and train our people to be the best that they can be in what we need.
And teaching them how to go back to their corporate environment and say there is value in this.
Understanding what the plight is and what the plot was, it'll help you understand how we can go forward.
The real question is, how do we get to the point where we're no longer the minority?
If all of us take that one skill that we have and give it to one other person, that is how movements happen.
So we bring our diversity to the table. That's where it starts.
We're here. We are going to collaborate. We are going to support each other. We are going to be there for each other.
We are together on this journey. So the collective consciousness is the biggest thing we need right now.
Marketing ourselves a better way to our people, and creating a different kind of safe space.
We want everybody to be involved. We want to come up with some answers and some solutions and some plans for us to keep going in order for us to. Thank you, everybody, for coming to Let's Talk About It. Today's topic of discussion is DEI and affirmative action. I am your moderator, Nakia Hudson of 2U Wines, and I'd like to introduce Candice Hankins, Colin Jackson, and Tequila Hopkins. This is our panel, and they'll be introducing themselves so you can know a little bit more about them.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming out. My name is Candice Hankins. I am the creator and founder of Ruthie's List, which is a Black business network and directory. So what we used to call the old school Black pages, that we used to have all of our businesses listed and did our marketing and promotions. That's what Ruthie's List is about. And I also have multiple years of diversity and experience from Cleveland Clinic for 22 years here. Thank you for having me.
22 with CCF. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Colin Jackson. I call myself the second favorite community advocate. I am the president of the Urban League of Greater Cleveland Young Professional Chapter, and I also sit on the board there as well as in the political action committee at NAACP. In my day-to-day, I'm a legacy entrepreneur. I'm the vice president of Elson International. We make cardboard boxes right here in the city of Cleveland. My passion is for our people, and in that capacity, I'm happy to talk about this topic.
Hi everyone, I am Tequila Hopkins, and I am founder of Realty Properties, and we focus on education to get individuals ready for home buying. I also am an HR specialist for a well-known food chain service company.
And of course, this Talk About It discussion is brought to you by the Pull-Up Experience. I just wanted to, it's important right now. There's a lot of things going on that we need to talk about for entrepreneurship, businesses, individuals as a whole in our community and abroad. So this topic of conversation is really important to me. On the Pull-Up Experience, we talk about things regarding this all the time. Just talking about how important it is that we support each other and that we do everything that we can to make our community stronger. Today, again, we're going to talk about affirmative action, and we're going to talk about DEI. I'm going to start with when affirmative action pretty much got put into place, which was September 24th of 1965. President Lyndon B. Johnson issued Executive Order 11246, prohibiting employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, and national origin by organizations receiving federal contracts and subcontracts. Affirmative action is actually defined as a set of procedures designed to eliminate unlawful discrimination and prevent such discrimination in the future. It typically imposes remedies against discriminations on the basis of, at the very least, race, creed, color, and national origin. Applicants may be seeking admission to an educational program or looking for professional employment. Diversity, equity, inclusion are organizational frameworks which seek to promote the fair treatment and full participation of all people, particularly groups who have historically been underrepresented or subject to discrimination. D.E.I. encompasses people of different ages, races, ethnicities, abilities, disabilities, genders, religions, cultures, and sexual orientation. I don't know if everyone is aware, but on June 29th of 2023, the United States Supreme Court fundamentally changed the process by which higher education institutions are supposed to recruit students in Students for Fair Admission, Inc., created by Edward Bloom versus President and Fellows of Harvard College. The ruling overturned more than 40 years of legal precedent and effectively ended the use of affirmative action. So what we're going to talk about today is how that affects us as a people and people of color. We want to talk about how it's going to affect us in the education segment, as entrepreneurs, in the workplace, and politically. We want to have a conversation and talk about, again, how important it is for us to know exactly what's going on in the world and in our community, and how we can basically combat that and make sure that we are still being represented in the workplace and these different places, including schooling. So I'm going to ask a few questions. We're going to start off with entrepreneurship, guys, and I'm going to hand this to you. And I want to get your opinions and how you see how this situation affects us in these different sectors. And for you, starting with you, Candice, how does diversity for you impact entrepreneurship?
So for me, I guess with Ruthie's List, the one thing that we do pride ourselves on is diversity and inclusion. We want everyone to feel a part of. We go to support the underdog, the ones that are forgotten or the ones that don't have the support or the financial resources. So they're kind of like the ones that you hear about 3 years later, they didn't admit, or they did something spectacular, like, oh, that person's been doing this for so many years. We want to be that person that's there to support them. So for us, we do include different people. So even though we're a Black business directory, in our leadership and on our board, it's not just Black. We have minorities, we have white, we have Mexican, we have different ethnicities, because we want to be able to include that. Because sometimes when we're doing the Black businesses, we promote racism. I'm gonna say it that way. Because we're so into making sure we're pro-Black and Black people are heard and things of that sort, and all about the Black business, that we forget about the other markets and the other people around us. And we start to build more racism when we're thinking we're taking away from it. So for me, it's really huge, because I want people to understand that we can't do it by ourselves. We want it as a culture, but we also need to realize that a lot of the resources and the information that we need, we don't have it. We gotta go outside somewhere else to get it. And it's not a bad thing to sit in those rooms or be in those spaces where that information is being given. Like we were just talking prior about working at, a very well-known place, and just being in the room of knowing and hearing the information that the colleagues or the higher ups or those C-suite conversations are about, and hearing it and taking that and running with it. So it's not just about being who you are, but being in the space and getting to the table to hear the information. So for me, it's a big deal, because we don't want to leave anyone behind.
Okay, well said. And what about for you, Colin?
If you could reiterate that question.
I absolutely can. How do you think that diversity impacts actual entrepreneurship?
Okay. So I'm an economics professional by education. So I believe that the free market is really our best opportunity to save ourselves, right? I think entrepreneurship in particular, you're only an entrepreneur if you got customers. And I think oftentimes we forget that in the state of Ohio, the two biggest governments for us living, budgets for us living in Cuyahoga County are the state and the council. All right, so on the state level, former Governor Casey made it so that 20% of the business that comes through the state has to be done with Black contractors. So that means everything from your plumbers to cutting your lawn, all the way to paving the streets. So I think when it comes to entrepreneurship, why affirmative action and D.E.I. are important is because it gives us a customer base, right? And through that customer base, we are then allowed to circulate dollars through our community, which empowers us. So when you're an entrepreneur, all you're really looking for is the opportunity. And for too often, we have been left out of that conversation.
Absolutely.
Where I'm going to maybe differ a bit, and I didn't think I was going to pull it out, but I'm going to pull out my kufi and my whole Black situation.
Let's get the conversation going for real, Colin.
I am incredibly happy to be at the table as a Black person, but I want to come to that table as a partner, not a prop. And too often when we have the DEI conversation, I think including all those other entities are important. But for me, I'm unapologetically Black, and I'm unapologetically about the interests of my people, just like every other group is like the interests of your people. So I'll give you some examples. There's the Black Chamber of Commerce, or Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in Cleveland. There is the Jewish Federation that makes sure that Jewish people are doing business with other Jewish people and they're doing well. What people often forget is that we all already have our own entity like that, and it's called the Urban League of Greater Cleveland. So what those organizations allow those populations to do is when they go to a Cleveland clinic, when they go to a major customer, they are prepared. And I think too often we come into these conversations and say, I'm just happy to be at the table, when this is a $2 billion construction job that's going on at Cleveland Clinic and we're getting only 50,000 of it because that's the set aside to clean up. We need to be in a better position where we can say, I can bid on a bigger part of that job. And I believe that institutions like the Urban League, who provide that type of funding and that type of mentoring for free, are really a crucial part of us getting to this E in diversity and equity, right? Because we're coming to the table with our hands out, we're not equal. Okay, for me, we need to be equal before we integrate ourselves into these houses.
Very well said.
Sir.
Very well said.
Thanks, Colin, for finishing my sentence.
Right. He really did. He put it out there.
I
So
have the next question.
I can move on if you would like for me to. I can.
I just want to come back on that because I am all with you on everything you said, but the thing that stuck out is being prepared. That's the problem. We're going into these spaces unprepared. So you can't just go to the table and say, oh, I want part of that 50,000 or whatever. You don't even know where to begin.
There you go.
So it's not just having the opportunity to go in the space, but being prepared. So
Absolutely.
I'm all with you. And I'm pro back. Listen.
Oh, I know. I'm
I agree with you for sure.
Okay, actually, I do have something to say to that. When we talk about being prepared, that is all of us here on the panel showing up for our people to help them navigate around that space. And so when we talk about, yes, I'm all pro-Black, but we're the same people, not saying we are, but the same race that will, I don't want to help you, what you got, what you bring to the table. And so I think that we need to be more about marketing ourselves a better way to our people, and creating a different type of safe space for our own people. And that's it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's get the talk started. I love what all of you had to say, and this is what we're doing here. This is why we're here, and I am very passionate about this subject. I'm pretty sure everyone in here has watched the pull-up experience or come to one of our events, and you know that we are really heavy about support and collaborating and making sure that we are there for each other. And I just want to touch on some of the things that all of you said. It does start with us. It absolutely starts with us. And that was the reason why we put this panel together, because and one of the most important reasons why we wanted Candice to be a part of this, and both of you too, Colin and Tequila, is because we want to make sure that we know different ways of how we can support each other, different ways of how we can be prepared and be ready. We want to introduce that, if you don't already know, and let you know who these people are and businesses in our community, so that we can keep this dollar circulating, so that we can be present, and so that it can be a situation where we're not just included because of our color, but we're included because we are needed, because we are on top of, we are on the ball and on top of our professions and doing well at whatever we do. So I'm going to move on to the next. No, you know what? I'm gonna go back and touch on something else about this Edward Bloom, who actually got the Supreme Court to overturn affirmative action. Next, after he did that, he went after a grant program called the Fearless Fund, formed by two black young ladies, African American young ladies, and their mission is to bridge the gap in venture capital funding for women of color founders building scalable, growth-aggressive companies. And that's important to me because we all know, we see it every day, from the housing market to getting loans to, redlining is still going on. There's a lot of programs and situations where we are not being included in. And to me, affirmative action was a way to make sure that we get a small percentage. And you could also look at it like, our work should speak volumes and get us into these places. So that's basically what I want to talk about too. I want to talk about how you guys feel about, actually getting rid of it, and how it's going to affect us in a positive and in a negative way. My next questions are, what are some challenges faced by diverse entrepreneurs? Either one of you.
Because America is a state based upon us being the currency, it's hard for us to get capital. When the number one piece of property or thing of value happened to be a brown person that looked like me 300, 400 years ago, these same institutions that have stake in this trade are the same people we're asking to now fund us. So I have a sentence all the time when I say it: you cannot ask the oppressor to stop oppressing you, because that ain't gonna happen. So the reality of it is, for people who look like us, the number one barrier to entry into entrepreneurship is access to capital. We do not have the cultural knowledge of what it means to have a family banker, to have a family trust, to have relationships that go back 3 or 4 generations, to where you can go to a bank and say, based on my father's line of credit, I need $2 million to buy a building and put this together, right? Yes. So then we go to, how do we make ourselves bankable? Do you have a back office? Are you using QuickBooks? Have you paid all your taxes? Do you have a tax person? So then we go back to where we started just a moment ago. Why are we not hiring other black accountants to run our business?
Yes, sir.
Why are we not operating from a sense of cooperative economics, so that, hey, maybe I don't have the capital to go get this loan, but if I partner with 2 or 3 other black entrepreneurs in our community, maybe we have a better shot of it. But again, as a people, we operate from a place of scarcity. And what that means is that we think there's only enough spot, there's only enough money, that the bank is only going to give out 5 black loans this month, and I need to get mine. That ain't going to work. That ain't going to work. And when you get that loan, you need to go spend that money with a black contract. You need to go spend that money with a black, somebody that can provide you resources to grow your business. So if I'm talking about the biggest barrier to entry, I would say it's the cultural knowledge, it's our ability to be bankable, and ultimately the belief that our community is going to support us like every other community supports their own.
Yeah, I'm gonna push back on you just a little bit.
I'll take it.
Yes, all of that. But because of the lack of knowledge, I feel like sometimes we need other people to teach our people. So if I'm an entrepreneur and it's not my first thought to think of a black banker unconsciously, then why not as an entrepreneur help me teach those people that I want to be my banker, you know? Like it's not, and I feel like going back to what you were saying, just generations of mental
Purposeful. Systematic.
restoration.
Yeah.
We were trying to think that our race is uneducated.
Yeah.
And that we are unreliable and that we can't provide the best service for our own people, let alone for others. And so I think that kind of being inclusive about this, bringing other races in to help and maybe educate and train our people to be the best that they can be in what we need.
Absolutely.
Just to kind of piggyback off of that, that education piece is very important because you mentioned that we were trained or we were taught to think a certain way. We still do to this day.
To this day.
It is very competitive in this area. It doesn't matter what genre you're in, what your expertise is, it is very competitive amongst your other black and brown sisters and brothers. It doesn't matter. We can sit here and have 5 cards on the table. It's only 3 of us in a row. We're going to fight over the same 5 cards, even though we're going to have 2 left over. Because we're so set on, I got to get mine. It's about me. It's never about the community or collaboration or the partnership. Because if you, like you said, you come together, you tripling and doubling your chances at what you're trying to do. And in that process, you're bringing in your group, you're bringing in this group, and we're continuing to educate and continue to fund and continue to bring the resources to the table. Without coming together, we're not going to be able to do anything. Whether it's coming together as just a black race or coming together and bringing in others in diversity, we have to be able to work well with others. You got to be the kid that can play good in the sandbox. If you can't play good in the sandbox, this might not be the space for you at the end of the day. So.
I do want to talk about that, discuss that. Me personally, I feel like we have to get it together amongst ourselves first before we can play with other kids in the sandbox. I feel like other races that have come to America have developed strong communities. They support each other heavily. They've pushed money into their schools, their churches, their businesses. And I feel like we have to make that step first. And we have to make us strong before. And I'm not saying oust anybody. What I'm saying is just what you're saying. Like, there's a lot of competition within ourselves. So that is the most important key to me. But I will say this. I will say, since opening 2U Wines, since being a part of the pull-up experience, I have seen some change. I have seen, such as the Urban League, I have seen so many different programs and different opportunities into the rooms to try to show us and try to give us that education. There has been some change. We are moving forward, is what I'll say, better than I've ever seen in my lifetime. So I think that but I still think of course there's a long way to go, and that's a reason why we're here. We want to keep having these events and having these situations so that people can know we're here. We are going to collaborate. We are going to support each other. We are going to be there for each other. Get your paperwork in order and then go to the Urban League. Get your paperwork to get your paperwork. Yes. And then go to the next Jump Start. There's all kind of programs, and we just need to really be purposeful and trying to do. The education, and I'm going to touch on that next. As far as education, because taking away affirmative action is meant for education, starting. it's gonna trickle down to everything else, such as entrepreneurship, the workplace. But it's starting with education. Quick story before I give the mic up. When my first year of college, I was taking my general classes. One of my teachers gave us a little piece of paper and said, write down on a piece of paper. I hate telling this story, but I'm gonna tell it. Said, write it on a piece of paper. If there was any other race that you could be, what would it be? Right off the back, I'm like, I love Spanish. Oh, I want to learn the Spanish language. I love the accent, and I would want to be Spanish. That was my thing. So as we go around the classroom and everybody's, because you didn't read your own card, someone else read all the different cards. And as they were being read, dread just got into my heart, because I was like, no one is going to say they will want to be black.
Yeah.
And I was just so upset at myself for not saying, I would never want to be anything else. I was looking on the, I'm looking at it, just the beauty and and not that we're not beautiful, but I was looking at the beauty of the language. And that's what I set my mind on when I made my decision, and I wrote down my answer. We have one more person. And this was a white young man, and he got to read his own card. He said, I would want to be black. So I sit up in my chair like, what is he about to say? Like, I never expected it. He said, because I would get a full ride for college.
Okay, so this is so important.
That was his answer, and it just blew me away.
So
that's the only reason.
Yeah, before we get off this decision and affirmative action and what happened with Mr. Bloom, I want everyone to be clear about what that decision was and who was actually the plaintiff in that case, okay? This is, again, about public institutions. We talk about affirmative action, D.E.I. That only applies to public institutions. Now, affirmative is actually set into the corporate environment, to the cultural norms, but it starts there. That case at Harvard is about Asian people feeling like they are not getting into college based upon the scores they have. Now, we're not taking into account the cultural advantages or disadvantages that you have after 400 years of not being able to read, not being able to invest in your education, and how that can set you back getting into college. But that particular group in America lobbied, worked with a majority institution that just wants to be like the young man you said and said, I'm not getting a full ride because these black kids are getting a full ride. The Asian population sided with that position. Why is that important? Because the Asian populations, the Jewish population, the Hispanic population, the Arab American population's priority is who? Themselves. And as we think about what affirmative action is or what it was, in the state of Ohio, we talk about minority businesses that's a part of affirmative action. Who was most benefited from that was white majority females.
Yes.
So when we talk about, they rile us up about, oh my God, they're taking away affirmative action. One, look at who was directly the most offended by affirmative action. And then two, look at who was actually filling out, again, this paperwork to get those benefits on a statewide level. So again, our priority has to be preparing ourselves to compete, because there is not any piece of legislation, there's not any speech that Joe Biden and Barack Obama can give that is going to make us equal at the table. We are going to have to do that for ourselves and use every resource we have to make ourselves equal. That's in education, that's in business, and also politics. So I just wanted to make that clear for everybody, because they rile us up about affirmative action, but we need to be clear who this was about. This was about Asian people with high SAT scores getting into college, not about black people not getting into college. So I just want to make that clear.
All right.
I'm telling you, man.
So we're talking about affirmative action and DEI, and I just wanted to give some facts about what's happening as of 2023. Google, Meta, Nike, Amazon are pretty much abandoning their DEI programs. After the death of George Floyd, you had all these big companies, and they agreed to put all these millions of dollars into making sure that Black people are being included in the workplace, and that it's a fair, they have fair institutions as far as hiring. But according to 2023 study by Zippia, less than 4% of the chief diversity officer roles were held by Black people. So we have all these diversity programs at all these big companies, and only 4% of them were actually 4% of the percentage of the roles were held by Black people. The tech industry cuts come as the tech industry doubles down on artificial intelligence. And I think this is super important. With fewer diverse voices represented in AI development, the resulting products could be less accurate or more harmful to users. So I wanted to talk about education, and thank you so much for clearing that up and let us know what's going on. We appreciate that. But also about the workplace environment. I mean, getting rid of the DEI programs kind of affects all of us. And like I said, everybody's leaning towards AI. If you don't have that education and try to upgrade what you already know, a lot of the labor market is going to be gone. A lot of things are going to be taken over by AI. And on top of that, they're getting rid of the diversity programs. I just want all of you can talk about it on what are some of the things that you think that we can do in order to make sure that we are still in the race.
Really quick. We spoke about this a little bit before the panel, and one thing that I feel like is really important are creating ERGs, which is employee resource groups, for people to still have that open space to be communicative, transparent, and relate to other races. So I think that's one thing that we can still do outside of that. I feel like you want to say something, Colin.
I'm listening.
I'm not going to say something.
I don't want to say nothing.
I definitely agree with that. Again, going back to education and having the resources. The resources are there. We just need to be knowledgeable and aware of what they are, where they are. So many times we hear people say, well, I didn't know, or I didn't find out, or I was this. It's there. We just have to be able, we have to look for it. Sometimes we want things to come to us. We have to go get it. So we definitely just need to have that education. And again, not being afraid to share that information and collaborate. Sometimes the answer is sitting right next to you, but you're too scared to ask about it, or it's about me.
This is a minority-driven problem. This is an American problem at this point where the AI is coming from. You add into that our broken immigration system that brings people into this country, does not allow them to work, and it puts them into a subservient situation of working for below the minimum. Right? So what is that going to do? Again, this is all economic conversation. What is the value of my dollar that I'm investing in what I'm going to get back? We as a community need to make ourselves as valuable as possible. So I believe starting with the children. If you have a child under 13 years old and you don't have them using ChatGPT to learn how to talk to these robots, they're going to be missing out. I think the most important thing that we need to think about with AI is that it's just like any other machine. Garbage in, garbage out, right? And your language model, this is a very crucial point. Your language model, the people who are going to have the advantage when AI happens are the people who have the strongest connection to the English language. And now, we know that's not us. We know past participles and INGs and the way we write grammatically is culturally right to us, but that computer doesn't know that. So if we are going to prepare ourselves for this next generation of labor and making sure that we are not eliminated, we start thinking about positions that are AI engineers. And what that means is the person at your company that talks to the AI and knows how to write those prompts. If anybody wants to get online tonight and scale up your skills in about 2-3 hours, get online and watch a YouTube video about how to write a proper ChatGPT prompt. Usually that's going to start with a question. It's going to be, hey, I need to do this. You are this, and I need you to include this. Those 3 things right there are going to make you invaluable in your workplace, no matter what your skill is. And largely, as we talk about AI, it is no different than anything Black people have been through in this country. When we started voting too much, they put in the Reconstruction rules. When we started integrating into their places of business, they put in Jim Crow. They put in voting tax. This is just another tactic to keep us out of the conversation. But what we are required to do is to figure out how we are able to jump over these barriers. Because ain't no less barriers coming.
Right.
They just changing them what they call.
Right.
And we are people that does. We are survivors.
Yes, sir.
Oh, absolutely.
And we will survive this, but we need to prepare ourselves to survive in this new modern age.
Yes, sir. Oh, you think you did.
I wanted to talk about the decline in DEI job postings as of recent, since affirmative action was pretty much overturned. By mid-2023, DEI-related job postings declined by 44% from the same time a year prior. Some companies are cutting their DEI budgets by as much as 90%. And that pretty much sums up why we are here today. Because we want to try to figure out or give our opinions about, because we all have different opinions on how we think it's going to affect us. And we touched on school, education, workplace. We haven't talked about politics as of yet. You just touched on politics just a little bit. But that is the purpose of us being here, to basically come up with how we're going to be affected, talk about how we're going to be affected, and come up with ways that we can continue to grow, that we can be stronger, that we can build better communities for our children, and legacies and generational wealth. And we're going to continue to have these topics of conversation, and we're going to continue to try to bring as much people as we can together, because back in the day in the civil rights movement, this is what they did. They got together.
This is a great time in Cleveland tonight, and I think what we look at is Black excellence on display right now.
I feel blessed. From the moment I walked in the door, I heard Mr. Wheaton and congratulations and everything. Now all the way up to upstairs, same thing, man. It's a blessing.
I am feeling really grateful, very blessed. It's just an amazing experience to be able to be in the room with so many amazing people, and people that are game changers and world changers. That's breaking bread and making businesses in Cleveland, Ohio.
This is a night for the books for not only Cleveland but Ohio. I'm so proud of Tenora.
They came up with solutions. They didn't just continue to talk about things. They came up with solutions. I feel like at a certain point in time, we kind of just gave up. We didn't push anymore because we have been torn down so much. I'm not saying that, there haven't been reasons why we felt like, man, like, come on, you got Tulsa, you got a little bit of everything, just so many things. But I do feel like there was a period of time when we stopped getting together and stop trying to help each other and support each other and be a stronger community for our children. And that's why we're doing this. We want to get this back. We want to make sure that we're patronizing and supporting each other. But not only that, that we are stepping up in our sectors of business to make sure that we are doing the best that we can as far as our business and having the best customer service and making sure that we are at the top of our game, learning everything that we can so that we are competitive, not just about our color. So I do want to talk about politics a bit now.
Wait, hold on.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Colin.
The reason these D.E.I positions are going away is because of economics. The customer base was affected when we saw Mike Brown and George Floyd killed. Nike was worried if they were going to sell more sneakers.
Yeah.
Target was worried if you were coming to get their milk and eggs from each other. That is why that happened. I don't believe in this altruism from corporations. I believe there is a benefit for them in presenting themselves as being included in the community. Now, what we're seeing now is that time has passed.
Yeah.
That profit, that P&L statement, when you got $500,000 of DEI on your balance sheet, doesn't make too much sense anymore. And that's when it gets from the public sector, because they're about to eliminate these DEI positions at universities, and then that impacts the social norm. So we need to be very clear about what we're seeing. George Floyd summer was a moment of brevity and reprieve. It is not the norm. So what you said is very important. We need to prepare ourselves to be crucial cogs within every corporate environment, because we are not going to just be there to make the majority feel good. So when we talk about these DEI positions are leaving, nah, they're just going back to what it was. And for us, we've always been able to compete. To be honest, we've outcompeted them, but we've never had the opportunity to benefit from that. But where we're going now, it makes it incredibly crucial. The last point I'll make is that what we should be doing is pulling together all of our DEI professionals in these corporate environments and teaching them how to go back to their corporate environment and say there is value in this, right? And the free market diversity of ideas creates better outcomes, better profit. So what we're doing at the Urban League is we have the Equity Institute. It is basically a program that teaches these vice presidents of equity and inclusion how to go back to their CEO and say, this is necessary. This is the benefit we're getting. Because if we can't make the emotional appeal that it's the right thing to do to include us in these conversations, the only other choice we have is talking about the economics of it.
Yeah.
Because you can be black, white, red. I think yellow is a little weird to say. But what matters to every corporation, every business, is the green.
Come on, sir.
So we need to figure out how to make ourselves as valuable as possible and be able to put that down on paper so they can't eliminate these positions. It shouldn't be a position where they feel like that they're doing us a favor. We're doing you a favor.
Absolutely.
Because I can go do this for myself. And then we need to make sure that every corporation that has someone in the DEI space knows that. And I believe that Urban League is working to do that, and we're trying to take that back nationwide.
I have a question for you. How would you, yes. And in saying all that, how would you tell someone to navigate, to start doing that without retaliation at their organization?
To start having which conversation about the benefit or?
About their benefit being there also, and about the benefit of leadership keeping that space.
So, your initiatives in DEI should not just result in a more comfortable space for the diverse employees, but also a more profitable outcome for the corporation. I believe we need to start our framework from that space, because that way I can go to these numbers and say, look,
Because we have an inclusive workspace, I was able to get this candidate. This candidate has netted you this much more this year. Those are conversations they can't necessarily argue with. Then if they argue with them, we know what they're really about.
Yes.
We want to get y'all going. But I think we have been lulled into this false sense of security as if the world is changing and things are going to be different. I'm sorry to tell y'all, but no matter what happens in November, things are not going to necessarily be that different. We have been required to add value since the day we came here off the boat. So our conversation and mindset will be, how do we add value with whatever we're doing? And again, within the free market, diversity of ideas always nets more innovation and better outcomes. So if you're having that conversation, I would love to introduce you to someone like Kevin Clayton at the CAV, Alan Neville, who just came from Metro Health, and these are 25 years professionals who have literally had this conversation over and over again. So there are people that are way smarter than me that can answer that question.
Oh no, thank you. That was a general question, not so much for me, but thank you. But yeah, introduce me to those people.
So, talking about that and moving on from that, I saw a post, and it just stays in my mind. And it was a gentleman discussing how much of the black dollar leaves the community. And that is 97 to 98%.
Which is about 15 minutes.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
$1.3 trillion black people spend every year.
And so it just puzzles me how we don't recognize that and we don't build off of that alone. We all know what type of stores and restaurants and things are in our neighborhoods, but if you go out further in the suburbs, higher suburbs or rural areas, you don't see those businesses in their neighborhoods. And so to me, you have 197 to 98% is what you're living off of and what you can feed your family off of. Because our money is going to those businesses because they are set up in our neighborhoods. And that to me is a huge fact that we can build on. And we all see it when we have a problem with anything and we see injustice or we see businesses not treating us well, and we're like, we're angry, and I always think back to the bus movement when we all literally did say, absolutely not. We will walk, we will crawl, we will get in the car together, we will ride a bike, we will do whatever we need to do to keep our money and our dollars out of these businesses that are mistreating us. And I recognize from what you're talking about, from what you touched on, that it's not just about the DEI programs, it's not just about affirmative action, it's more so about us coming together, recognizing what a huge value we are to the United States of America, and building off of that to make better situations for ourselves. So my question right now is, how do you guys, all of you, think that we can continue having conversations such as what we're having now and continue to do everything that we can to bring people in the building so that we can get it, so that it can click, so that we can realize that our children are affected by this. Not that they haven't been, but it's just things are moving and things are like not so much different, but still moving, and we won't have the opportunity to be as inclusive anymore.
So I will say the one thing that stood out is that I feel like because we've been invited into these spaces and we made all these strides and we can do this now as a people, we've got to come. We're just happy to be here, like you said. We just happy to be in the room. We're happy to be able to go into this bathroom. We're happy to be able to do these things after we've come through those different spaces. But we forget what got us to those spaces. Like you said, the fights that we had to go through to get there. To continue having these conversations, we have to continue to do the work. The work can't stop. It has to keep going. And what I say with that is teaching each other, teaching other people, being an example. Businesses come and go in our communities. Why? Because one, oh, that's just another black business. I don't do stuff for black people. We don't know how to act. We don't have good customer service. Oh, let me go on YouTube. Let me go on Instagram and bash them. You go to McDonald's, they give you nasty fries, you're not mad. Come across the street, they give you nasty fries, you just told 8 of your friends. Yes. We have to learn how to change our mindset and our culture of what we're doing. If we don't do that, we're going to continue to just, like the crabs in the barrel, we're just going and coming down. So we have to learn how to effectively teach each other as well as learn how to change and adapt. That is huge. We don't do well with change. A lot of us get in our, we're like, oh, I can't do that. That's not AI. Why do they know about it? Because that's something new. We gotta learn it. We gotta take time out to get that piece. So we have to be okay with learning more information, changing, developing ourselves. But also, if you are in that space, be an example. Don't be afraid to be a mentor, a sponsor, a leader. Like, don't just talk about it. We gotta continue to do it. Like, we can sit back all day and say, oh, we need to have these type of events. Oh, we need to do this, we need to do that. But we're not doing it, it doesn't matter. We're sitting here gatekeeping all the information and the knowledge. And then we're wondering why our people are not succeeding because we're sitting here holding on to the information. We gotta give it. It doesn't hurt. In the last podcast, we talked about it doesn't hurt you to share so much information, to share their business, to share their thoughts, because it could be yours or somebody else's. It's just a matter of keeping it going. You gotta keep the conversation going.
That's good.
Actually, I won't say something. I don't want to say much, but as far as our youth, I think that it is important to teach them the value in civic engagement and getting out there, voting, volunteering, the things that we're talking about that we are passionate about, teaching our youth, just educating them about the different policies, procedures, federal, local laws that are going on. I feel like that is not always taught in school, definitely not on the streets where I grew up. And so I think starting there is very important.
I agree.
Now you can go.
Come on with the mic drop.
So, we're talking, so remember, where do we start with this, like with this prompt here?
So we talked about how DEI and affirmative action with trying to figure out how we can, what do we need to do to keep us, because we're in a situation now where we're it's a little bit less inclusive.
Yeah.
How do we keep these talks and these rooms filled with us being together and coming together so that we can make that change for the most part?
So, what I feel like our community lacks is a collective consciousness. And to me, the best way to have a collective consciousness is to have collective knowledge, collective cooperative economics. Because when my dollar is invested with you and you are a part of my community, your well-being is now a part of my well-being. We ride down this street in Mayfield, you go over to Cedar, we make our way to University of Cleveland Heights, you know a little something about this, because those are the streets you grew up on. Those people, those individuals, have an unapologetic collective consciousness. We're going to send our kids to these schools.
we're going to sell our houses to these people, and we are going to make sure that we all are successful, because if you got a business up the street and it's a dry cleaner, I'm coming to your business. Through that, they have a collective mindset that allows them to do far greater things when we are separated by neighborhoods, communities. We were talking earlier about the paper bag test. We are divided in so many ways that are systematically in place that we lack a collective consciousness. We lack a collective consciousness about education for our kids. We lack a collective consciousness about even how black kids should talk. Our own communities and family members say to the bright young man that speaks with proper ers and ings, "Oh, you sound white."
Oh, you talking proper?
Yeah, listen, so how are we going to collectively empower ourselves when we are so divided amongst the smallest things? And the only people who benefit from that are the majority who control the system anyway. Because now you've given me a reason to exclude you. You've given me a reason to keep you away from this job, this opportunity, and these resources. So I think the way we keep this going, even after the institutions and the infrastructure forget about the 400 years of oppression and the downtrodden and the things that they owe us. I don't want to say the R word, reparations, but they'll forget about those things. But collectively, we cannot. So I think the way we keep this going is by trying to gain a collective consciousness about, hey, this is where we are. These are the problems. I don't care who you vote for. I don't care where you send your kids to school. I don't care if you go to a mosque. I don't care if you go to a Baptist church. We are together on this journey. So collective consciousness is the biggest thing we need right now.
I think with that too. Just kind of going back to what Nakia said as far as supporting and things of that sort, and just circulating the Black dollar. When someone supports you, it doesn't hurt you to support them. So if someone's patronizing your location, you can do the same thing, and that's how that Black dollar continues to circulate. But as I'm sitting here in the room, I'm looking around, we're talking about D.E.I. So at the Cleveland Clinic, it was D.E.I.A, the acquisition at the Cleveland Clinic. So as I'm looking around the room, there's a lot of diversity in the room. When we think about diversity, we think about other people. We are diverse in our own culture. So if we bring our diversity to the table, that's where it starts, and that's where it can continue to go. Like you said, starting with yourself first. Like they always say, ministry starts at home. Ooh, that message was for me. We got to start inside and looking at ourselves and seeing, okay, all of us come to the table together like we're having this conversation, but we can bring in, it can bring in Brandon, we can bring in Angel, because here's another perspective, here's another example, here's another skill set that we don't have right here at the table.
Absolutely.
Put that together, and here we are now taking over. Like that's what we.
Yes.
I went to the Civil Rights Museum this past week, and when I say that is something everyone needs to experience in Atlanta, if you don't, if you've been there or haven't, it is amazing because, like you said, seeing those pictures and those moments of where we come together, that collective thought, that collective process, we lack it because again, we just happy to be here. We smile and we just happy. But we got to remember where we came from and how to get back to there. Continue being that example and bringing us together as a unit. That's a big thing that we're not doing. I think if we can get there, keep this space going, and this is an amazing space. Keep this going.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people might get tired of it, but they got tired of the marches. Who cares? We gonna keep doing it, you know? So continuing this type of conversation.
Before we move on, I would like to say that we're speaking at a very high level here. We are saying you are in the homeowner space, so go reach 50 people and tell them about how to get lending. You're in the entrepreneur business space, and I'm going to create a network of 100 people who have businesses that are all going to invest in each other. But I want to make it really clear. We talk about the civil rights movement, we talk about voting rights, and you got to remember that it was young people going to older people teaching them how to read whatever the poll tax was, bubble and stuff. It was individuals going to other individuals to enhance their lives. So I don't want anyone who's watching this to think that I have to go be at the Urban League, I have to go be at some big place to have impact. Something that I've done this week is our office administrator at Elson's is working on a school project. I showed her how to use Canva and ChatGPT to make that process faster. Listen, that's a very small thing. But if all of us take that one skill that we have and give it to one other person, that is how movements happen. And we have to get out of the mindset of George Floyd's summer was a moment. And I have a real good friend, Pastor Kyle Early, that reminds me all the time. It is a movement, not a moment.
My God today, my God today.
And we have to get in the mindset of this is a moment. But the glory for us, the triumph for us, the overcoming for us is in the movement, not the moment.
Yes, sir.
Can't nobody take away the movement from us.
Yes, sir.
They can take their dollars away from the George Floyd moment,
Yes, sir.
but they can't take away our passion for each other. And that's our new civil rights.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
I knew I was excited for a reason about this conversation. I love it. I love it. On that note, I do want to reach out to all of you. And I want to know if anyone in the audience has questions or things that they'd like to discuss about what we're talking about today. If anyone has anything to say or add, or if you just want to discuss anything. Right. Brian, can you reach the young lady in the back? I know this is not coming.
Yeah, no,
this
no.
may, though. This may.
No, that ain't
That's not either.
Yeah.
That you can't.
I'll
I don't know if that'll reach. Wait, take it here. Give it to me. Yeah, let her come on.
There you go. Come on. There you go. Give her the mic, Frank. There you go. There you go. Look at that. She's all the way up. There you go.
I guess my question would be, hello, my name is Sydney. I guess I should say that
Hi,
first.
Sydney.
But I know you were talking about more like all the difference of DEI. I guess what would you say on talking about like working in the white places? I guess what would you speak to like for retention rates of working in places that are predominantly white, and how you would like, I guess, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm sorry, Sydney. Can you repeat that? Did you guys hear it?
retention rates.
Oh,
Yeah,
retention
yeah,
rates.
sorry,
Okay.
I'm a pretty soft speaker.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
So the question was, working in a predominantly white job or business, what do we think the retention rate could be for diversity?
To keep the, I know
To
we're
keep
going to
it.
be
Okay.
programs were about getting people of color.
Okay,
But then
gotcha.
what about keeping those same people of color
Gotcha.
in that same place?
That's a good one.
I'm sorry, I don't want to, but I'm sorry.
So they tell the story of affirmative action, and when it really, really, really picked up and got really moving is in the 80s, right? Where they start hiring African Americans into these corporate environments like banks and things of that nature. When you go back and look at the numbers, let's say arbitrarily that they bring in 20 young black people in 1982. By the time you get to 1995, probably only 5 left. And you ask the question, why? Well, because there was no DEI to go with the affirmative action, right? So we're bringing people who are culturally so different in these environments into spaces that no longer feel comfortable for them. They don't have allies. Their bosses aren't culturally aware. Even something as simple as the Crown Act, you got familiar with, which allows, like my sister here, she has locks just like my wife. That was not deemed as culturally appropriate in the workplace.
This is true.
And we talked about it before. It was almost in these corporate environments, you were told to turn down your blackness. But they don't tell that to any other culture. When it's 3 days before St. Patrick's Day, your colleague named O'Malley is taking the whole 4 days off. When it comes to Cinco de Mayo or Columbus Day, that's good. Columbus Day, they shut down the whole city.
Yeah.
They don't tell those people to shut down your Italian heritage when you come in office. But they tell us to take off your divine 9 million. Don't come in here talking about your black church experience. So when we talk about retention, I think it's a lot different now because we have these ERG groups which create spaces for you to feel comfortable in an uncomfortable space. But when we say retention, we can't ask black people to stay someplace that they don't feel welcome. And then that is on the corporation and the organization, and then this is why getting rid of those DEI positions is a negative to that, because usually those officers create that environment where I'm a young black person who may be talented, but after 2 or 3 years of this, I'm sick of it. I'm gonna go get my LLC and y'all contract with me, but I'm never coming back in this office. So retention is truly about making a comfortable environment for you to be yourself unapologetically. And unfortunately, I don't think that happens enough. But if you can find one mentor at this department, at this corporation that can reach out to those young people, then I think we'll have better retention rates.
That was great, Colin.
You got a question?
Here you are, young lady. Okay, so I would like to touch on the idea of being twice as good to get half as much, and how we have this perceived aggression in the workspaces and different places when it comes to being included. So I want to talk more so on how being pro-me doesn't make me anti-you. Because sometimes it can be perceived as if I'm pro-black, then I automatically hate everybody, where I love me just as much as I love you, a little bit more, because it's me, but I absolutely still love you in this space. And just because I'm me doesn't take away from you being you. It's like a birthday cake. Like, I can light your candle and still be lit myself. Like, I'm not gonna light you and I can't be lit, and I should be okay, and we should be okay with being lit on the birthday candle side, because people turn them lights down, we're still gonna shine together. They're still going to sing our praises together. They still know what it is when we walk in. We ain't gotta say nothing. Somebody just gonna start singing and being excited because they know what time of the party it is, right? So I think we need to speak more on, it's not aggression, it's just who I am, unapologetically, and I should be okay with that, and you should be okay with that. So not necessarily a question, but how can we reduce the idea of perceived aggression when it's just really, I love me and I love you too, but I love me.
Absolutely. I think that's personal. I think that's based on the perception of the person, experience in life, and the culture that they live in. I don't think that has anything to do with race. I think it does, as a matter of fact, it does have something to do with race. But I think it's a perceived perception of others in the process of being in that environment. Speaking to that, I don't have my mic, I'll need one. But being like one of the only, you know what I mean by one of the only, in a room where it's majority.
The others.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. We know what
okay, so at that point, just to kind of piggyback on what you said in regards to how do we handle the lack of attention, there's no way to handle the lack of attention based upon the person because it's situational, but within self, as us being us, and the problem where it's a matter of moving in a way where you understand what you're dealing with and quote unquote playing the game, but not playing the game to the point where you quote unquote sell out. It's more of a, I know how to professionally move in this space because I know the elements that I'm dealing with, and I know the defense and I can read it. And at that point, I'm a make a move based upon what's being presented. And when I get off work, I can talk everything I want to talk about. But at the end of the day, the real question is, how do we get to the point where we're no longer the minority and the majority?
Yeah.
Now, as y'all talking about collaborative efforts, we have been exiled since when we was indigenous and Aborigines, and they told us we had to switch up, and they didn't kick us out of our land that we own, you know, by nature, by what God gave us, not by political reasons or taxes being paid. It was given to us, but they took it. Shout out to Columbus. Shout out to him. At that point, now we have to move how we move, and then we have to adjust according to, but that's still the trajectory to this day. So, as y'all speak about the profession, how you move, and the advice that's being given, I can appreciate it, receive it, but then individually, you know, I work for ILD's jobs. I'm a business service lead. I create opportunities for job seekers. Okay. At that point, I'm also in the process of transitioning to being a personal effective for citizens. Now, I'm in Mayfield Village. Mayfield Village is a location.
Yeah.
It's a location that's not majority us, but I'm the guy that's going to show up and provide and add value based upon my expertise and experience. At the same time, I still know I gotta not play the game, but move how I need to move to make sure that I add value to create opportunity for those that's more likely to showcase that we can be here. Granted, it sucks that we gotta have that mindset of, let me show you that we can be here. But because of society, because of TV, because of what's been promoted in regards to us and our melanin skin and how we react in situations and all the perceptions that they have, we have to know how to have one up in regards to professionalism, but also be true to self in the process. And then we talk about lots. I used to have those. I'm bored now, but I used to have those. And I still work for a corporate organization. And yeah, they try to give me pushback on my style and how I came in, but I was always dressed in the occasion. At that point, there's nothing you can really say to me because my work speaks for itself. My demeanor and my presentation speaks for itself. So at that point, you can't negate me or tell me that I can't be who I am based upon the fact that my hair is how I look. I'm still providing service and adding value to your organization. But yet, we speak about entrepreneurship and how that's the exit route for the majority of us because we don't feel appreciated and valued who we are as we're adding value to this organization that's not adding value to us. And granted, the benefits might be decent, but it's not what it should be. And at that point, now it's compensation isn't what it should be. So at that point, if I can make the same amount of money in a shorter amount of time, which we have the ability to do, which the majority don't, is why they feel intimidated. Because we can learn how to build a building in a short period of time that you can. Because it's in us, not on us. And that's how I'm going to leave that there.
Yeah, so I think let's start over here with the perception of the angry black man and the angry black woman. That is something that everyone in the corporate environment deals with. Well, I don't want to be confrontational because I don't want to be branded as this, right? That is something that we're going to struggle with.
Yeah.
I can't tell you that the most scary thing in America was the black man at a certain point. You know, we're the most beastie, sexually, they didn't even want us around their women. So now I'm in your workplace, in your boardroom. How do you think you feel about me?
Right.
And for the sisters here, they projected you as almost the main character, right? All these negative tropes about us. And now we're in these spaces. So it's very unlikely that a country has gone this far into this space and is now going to treat you equally and you are going to be able to express your opinion without being characterized as those things. But to the young man's point, our preparation, our ability to be better than, we do have to go twice as hard to get half as far.
Yeah.
But that is our plight.
Yeah.
And I believe at some point we are going to see the benefits of us being that way. I don't know if it's going to be in this generation or the next, but it's a reality. And I think that
For our culture, we have to stop saying that we shouldn't have to be like this and understand that this is the reality. This is the reality. The reality is the sign said no Jews, no Negroes, no Italians. That is the reality. We do ourselves a disservice when we talk to our young people saying, well, you shouldn't have to pull your pants up to gain respectability. You shouldn't have to talk like this when the reality is, no, you shouldn't, but you do. And I think so much we often get caught up in, it's wrong that they discriminated against me because I had locks and didn't want to promote me. And understand that that's the reality, so I gotta be a little bit better. And hopefully, as you said, brother, once we get out and we are the empowered ones, we don't do that to our next people. Because again, the oppressor is not going to change his tactics of oppression. And you asked him to do something that he isn't capable of. I think that racism in this country is about personally feeling like you're losing something because somebody else is gaining something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When they have a conversation about immigration, they say they're coming over here to take our jobs. No, they're taking jobs that you don't want to do. Right? But the concept of it, the concept is based in racism, and if you got a solution to solve that, we need to put you on a billboard, because I don't think that we're going to be able to solve it. But what we can do is learn to operate within the game and play the game as it is, and steal away the little pieces we can, go play in our own field, and feed ourselves.
Yeah. Which we did originally, absolutely.
So just to kind of touch on what you were saying, as far as being in that space, it's not even, like you said, it's not even about your color. It's not about any of that. It's just the intimidation factor. I have sat in many C-suite meetings as the only brown, not just female, just the only one of us in the room. And it's very intimidating to them because we're coming in, like you said, they're coming in trying to take what we got, because we think they're taking from us, and they feel the same way. Like, oh, they trying to be like us. They want to take our jobs. They're coming in and want our women and our children, all that stuff. That's what they're doing. They're looking at you the same way that you're looking at them. Nobody's saying it. But the thing is, when you get in that space, you come prepared. You soak up all that information. You get the knowledge that you need, and you take it back. And you continue to build that brand, continue to build that information in that community. Another thing that was said, there was so much was said. I was really going back and forth. I was trying to jump in. I was kind of looking at when we were talking.
Can't sell your home and tired of carrying that load? Drop the house. Gutter Properties will buy your house as is with offers up to $300,000. Need serious repairs, liens, taxes, or judgments? We'll work through your unique situation to get that house off your back. During your free, no-obligation appraisal, we maintain social distancing and take every precaution to ensure your experience is safe. Drop the house. Gutter Properties. Call us or visit gutterproperties.com today.
Only person in the room. It's not even just about us trying to be like them. It's not just us trying to be like them. It's the other races too. Because society has made it that race or this particular person or space is what you want to look like. The thing was you want to be, and I'm going to just be real, the white man, the tall white man with the blue eyes with the short cut that went to the Ivy League school. You went to the John Hopkins for your fellowship and your residency. You got this master's. That's what you're supposed to look like. I watched many women, men of all races get looked over because you didn't look like that. You didn't walk like that. You didn't talk like that. We have to learn how not to play the game. It really is play the game. Learn the space. Operate in the space. It is okay to be in there and to have proper diction and dialect. To sit up tall. To come in proud. You don't have to come in, I'm black and I know it. No, you don't have to do that. But you got to come in and have a presence about yourself that I know this information. I'm supposed to be in this space too. It's not just y'all, it's me too. I know, that's why I'm here. So we have to have the confidence. And I think that's the thing that we lack sometimes going in because we're so busy to say like, oh, we the only one, or why am I the token, and things of that sort. We got to go in with the mindset, I'm just like everybody else in the room. And I know what needs to be said and done. That's why I got asked here in the first place. You got to remember your why. Why are you here? Why did you get here? It wasn't because you was cute. You might be cute, but it's something they know that they got to get from you. It's something about you that's going to get them to the next phase. And once you realize that, it's going to change the game.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
This is so good. This is so good. Praise God. This is so good. Shouts out to all of you all. This has been an amazing conversation. Real quick, because I'm nothing without my notes, so I'm going to rip through this so I can get it done quickly, right? But first, let me give everybody grace and mercy, right? Because I think sometimes we speak in these situations and we forget how much internal integrity we've already put on the table, right? So give yourself some grace and mercy. We have done a lot. Do we need to go further? Absolutely. Do we have resistance? Absolutely. But the fight continues. So grace and mercy does apply. However, Candice said something earlier today, and she mentioned this idea that we only know what we know. So this secret squirrel mentality that some of us have, because I don't believe in absolutes, that some of us have, this secret squirrel mentality is damaging to us, right? So free yourself. Exactly what I said. Right. Free yourself and free others, right? Because your light that you're able to shine for somebody else, or even the shine for yourself, is not going to stop anybody else's. So that whole mentality of I'm going to hold this information and keep my cards close to myself, that is the wrong mindset, especially when we're talking about elevation. And elevation, and I'm going to say this as long as I possibly can to everybody who can hear, and I always simply mountaintops. Elevation is a collaborative sport. That is the end of that, right? Elevation is a collaborative sport. And we need to re-say that to ourselves every time that we step out in any platform. It's because it is never going to be just about you and I. Never. And if you come to the table thinking just about yourself, you have come with the wrong agenda already. Elevation is absolutely a collaborative sport. When I got some tax issues and I need some money to go, I'm going to go call Tequila. I know what you're doing to that. Praise God. Right? And I did, right? Because elevation is a collaborative sport. I know that Candice is out here trying to create a space for people to have an unapologetic space to say, I'm an entrepreneur, Black at that. And here's where you can find me in the services that I provide. The old school yellow book, as they call it. I was just in a production with this young man here, Colin, about re-entry, because we're passionate about trying to make sure that our people get the opportunities they need. Right? You have to be able to say to yourself, what can I do to elevate myself? But what does my value at the table elevate others as well? Because if you're not doing it for somebody else, you're really tripping to begin with. So you have to control your narrative. And then you have to have some narrative investigation. Why are we all here? Right? Why are we all here? And then there's a situation where, and unfortunately in the culture, if I can keep it a buck, if I can keep it 100, in the culture we're most often sometimes, I don't believe in absolutes, but we are most often sometimes trauma bonding. You understand what I'm saying? We are trauma bonding. So we are not where we need to be sometimes in some situations because we're too busy fighting the pain and we're trying to figure out how to heal from that. Sometimes people have like church hurt, right? We have Black hurt. So when they were having conversations about, well, the fries were bad over here and you didn't say nothing. But the fries were bad at Chicken and Waffle over here and you said all kinds of stuff. You went on live and you did a whole situation because it's a trauma bond. You understand what I'm saying? And trauma bonds will have more momentum than anything else. So when people are looking for expectation, when they are looking for some awareness, some light to be shined, they will go ahead and they will sit in that trauma bond longer than they're supposed to. So don't do that. That's what it is. And in terms of our ancestors, we don't have enough, in my opinion, and I speak for myself, we don't have enough warriors at the table who can build a table that they know that they may not sit at. You see what I'm saying? Some of our ancestors built tables that we now sit at that they knew good and doggone well they would never sit at. But they gave of themselves in such a way that the table should be built. So don't walk in so proud sometimes like, I finally made it to the table, right? Because that's a blessing as well. But you got to figure out what table are you building that you may not never sit at. Because that's for somebody else, right? That's for somebody else to say when you're dead and gone or maybe still living and just not in the space that I'm here because of you, right? Because it's a table of sacrifice that you made so that I would have the opportunity to do these said things. And so, yes, we should be. It is my opinion. You see my brain, you see me here? It is my opinion that we should be unapologetically black about the things that we are walking into. Because everybody else don't have to be perfect. Why is it that the black culture gotta come perfect? We gotta come to the table perfectly, or we can't come at all. Yeah, no, I'm gonna come unapologetically to the table as I am, and I'm not going to stand down on that because my people have already been oppressed. We already 1000 BC behind. The shotgun went off and the race was ran, and there are 4 times around the track before I can even get out the gate. So of course, when I have a success, of course, when I have something good going on for me, of course, when I can help my brother and my sister, I'm going to be unapologetically about that. Now, if that causes a problem at the economic table, because see, money is different than presents, right? Then you got to be crafty. You got to be creative. You got to figure out how to get to that table and not necessarily come in there, I'm black and I'm proud, but you really are, and figure out how you can get what you need so you can go back and you can be black and you proud. This is chess and not checkers. This is absolutely what you need to do. And sometimes we get caught up in the fact that it may not benefit me right now because we are immediate gratification. And when you move from being immediate gratification, then your why turns into your purpose. So I'm not really concerned with your why. I'm really trying to figure out, are you walking in your purpose? Is this a passionate conversation for you? Is this a passionate cause for you? Not your why, because your why could be your kids, because your kid had autism, so you're at the autism table, so you're talking about autism today. But is it your passion? Is it your purpose? If your child did not have autism, would you then still be at the table? That's the difference between why and purpose. You understand what I'm saying? So we got to figure out when we come to the table, and thank you so much, and I do work with that young man, it's not a moment, it's a movement. What is your moment? Is it a movement for you? Or is it a moment? And there are times and places for that, and that is fine. But we got to get to a place where we understand that before we walk in. And I will close with this. Because I didn't talk too much, talk about that, Brandon.
Oh, no, you're good.
No. But I'll close with this stuff. In our trauma bonding, unfortunately, we have relationships with other people that are besties or friends or have other relations with other people. And because we don't understand why that didn't work, we jump on the bandwagon as if it ain't all going to work. Now, that's the wrong pursuit of happiness. All right? I don't have to understand why you and Candice's business venture didn't necessarily flourish the way that y'all said it for me to support both of y'all. You understand what I'm saying? And if I'm really good at what I'm doing, and my love language is support, and it is, I'm going to pull up experience. My God, today, I'm going to pull up, and I might try to figure out why it didn't work and lend my services, my spirit, my space, my presence as to what happened. Because maybe you all didn't have enough understanding of what your original understanding was to get to where y'all need to go. Because the goal is elevation. It's a collaborative sport. And if y'all weren't able to figure out what that elevation is, maybe I can help that. I'm not then going to jump on the bandwagon and say, well, she don't mess with her. I ain't going to mess with her neither because her fry's bad too.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? That's the wrong spirit because our counterparts, they are always going to be looking at the economic dollar. They can care less that you two didn't get along at the golf course on Saturday evening at 6:00 p.m. They want to figure out what is best for the generation because they got to be able to pass this business down to Tommy. And Tommy in rehab right now, so we're working on something for him. So when he get out of rehab, he will be okay. You understand what I'm saying? Absolutely. We have to do that for our people. We have to figure out how do we get past our trauma for our people, how we figure out how to heal with our people, because we don't have the luxury of figuring out how to heal and then go forward. We have to do it simultaneously. You understand what I'm saying? And that is a burden. Yes, it is. But we have to accept that burden. You understand? So it's one of the things like it is what it is. Kind of said it's a reality. And we don't have time. We do not have time, ladies and gentlemen. We just do not have time to be sitting here trying to dissect where we gonna put the play. The play is in motion. You have to get on the field and figure out what your position is and be the real MVP of your lane until it's time for you to switch lanes. That is what you have to do. That has to be your obligation, and it has to be a heart obligation. It has to be a purposeful obligation, so that when you mad at me on Tuesday, you still in your purpose. You understand what I'm saying? We're not talking about your why. We're talking about your purpose, so that when you don't agree with what Colin said on Thursday at the board meeting, and you don't got to worry about that. You still on your purpose Friday morning. I got to keep people in their purpose. That is how the culture goes from A to B to C. Because our counterparts, they don't care nothing about that, and they will watch us demise. They're looking for us. The D.E.I. is fading away. They're ripping these things away from because people put money where catastrophe is. When the foot was on the neck and the gun was to the head, they wanted to put the money on the table to show. We not with that. We sorry that man died. We want you to come buy these shoes though. We still want you to come do these things though. So we sorry about that. We didn't know that officer was gonna put his foot on his neck like that. We are so sorry, but we're not with that because that's a catastrophe thing. You understand what I'm saying? Now the catastrophe is over. Ain't nobody talking about George Floyd no more. You understand what I'm saying? So they like, well, we can sneak these dollars back to the PL. You understand what I'm saying? We don't have to talk about DEI no more. People can go back to what they originally was doing, which is why you got to now walk in there and say, listen, there is an absolute value, and let me show you why. And even if I build this table, I don't have to sit at it, but it is exactly where it's supposed to be, and it is needed. People need this for this reason, X, Y, and Z, and I am here not to just pull up, but follow up, and this is what we're going to do. Praise God.
Yes. Yes. Sure. Yes. In the room. In the room.
Shut up, Colin. Shut up, Colin.
Wait, sneakers.
Colin.
I just want to say thank you so much. That was so good.
Yes.
I would be willing to give up my seat for that, to hear you say that all over again. And I don't know if you have your pastoral license, but that was me.
I appreciate you, sir.
Yes. That's why we're here. We are here to put it all out on the table, for us to all talk, for us to all dissect, for us to all figure out how we can do that purpose. That right there was so strong. And listen, it goes for every relationship in your life. If you are still walking in your purpose, it's all right that we had that going on the other day. But guess what? We still walking in our purpose, and we still going. That was it right there for me. That right there, I asked the question earlier about how can we keep these discussions in these rooms? How can we continue to support each other? How can we continue to build and unite? That was it right there. If we are working in the purpose and knowing what is important in order for us to keep going, in order for us to flourish, in order for us to be in these places, not because of our color. If we are here and understand what we need to do that, that is it. It's purpose. That is the answer to the question, to me. It is walking in our purpose and understanding what is important for us as a race, as a community, and we all talked about nobody's excluding anyone. But what we are saying is that we need to come first. I have enjoyed this. Right, I'm about to be And guess what? We're going to do it again and again and again and again. And we want to fill these rooms up. We want everybody to be involved. We want to come up with some answers and some solutions and some plans. Okay? We got to have a plan. I appreciate you all for being here. This was absolutely amazing. If you guys have anything you want to say to close out, I'm with it. But yes, did anybody else have any questions? Or want to talk about anything?
Last thing, nothing, that's it. Okay, so education. We talked about taking away the right to be in this space. And I think when we started affirmative action, when we started a lot of these movements, the idea was to desegregate, right? We just want to say that you cannot take away the sign that says no Jews, no black, whatever. And somehow the idea moved from desegregation to forced integration, and I think that's where a lot of the problem comes into play. But for education specifically, especially like things that are happening in Florida, we are taking away the right to know the story. We don't even know our history, so I think it's important for us to reiterate that it starts with us, it starts at home, and to understand your communication style, right? Words have power and words also have meaning. So breaking down the differences of the meanings of the words in this English language, whether you speak phonics or whatever else, understanding what the plight is and what the plot was, it'll help you understand how we can go forward. And just starting with us and staying with us.
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right, education. So, man, if I told y'all who I worked for the majority of my career, y'all's jaws. Not That's been pretty. I'm gonna touch off y'all. But no. But so you talk about education, and you brought up one real big thing, like in Florida. Yeah, they don't want to tell the story when they develop.
Come on, sir.
In Mercer, in Ohio, 322 is like 118 and a couple other bills. It's basically describing DEI education as divisive because majority of children are going home and asking their parents questions about, what do you mean grandpa didn't let my buddy's grandpa go to school? They deem that divisive. Now, I want to be clear and say this is my personal opinion and not that of the Urban League of Greater Cleveland or any other organization involved in. Chairman Huey P. talks about us being in control of our own destiny, us educating and arming our own children within our own communities. And it's interesting, they eliminated him and his part in his 10-point program and stole a whole bunch of the programs and called them welfare. But the number one thing the majority took hold of was educating their own children.
Yes, sir.
Little Jewish kids in Beechwood go to Beechwood schools all day, but you know what the other building is right across from the high school? Hebrew school.
Yeah.
The Chinese do something similar, and every other group is going home, and you are getting two educations. You are getting your public education from this institution, but then you coming home and you getting the education about your cultural background from your family.
Yes.
So this is where I'm at.
Yes.
There's a lack of black educators in these institutions. There's a lack of black education and a lack of black history. This should not be allowed. We should be educating our own children. And here's something that black people like to talk very bad about. There's a thing called school vouchers in the state of Ohio. You can go get thousands and thousands of dollars from the state to send your child to a parochial school, a private school. You can take that money and homeschool. Now, what the institutions have done is they told us, oh no, you can't take that money because now you're hurting our public schools. And to that I answer, I'm not sacrificing my black child for the sanctity of your institution. So when you talk about education, I don't care what you eliminate in that public school because number one, my child should not be getting all their education from there. And so for number two, if you don't like what your school is doing, make some other resources for your child. Because it is a fallacy of hope that we are sending our children to their schools with an expectation they're going to come back and be the warriors we need to take. So I encourage every black person, whether you take those school voucher dollars or not, to educate your child on your own. And if you can't do it yourself, find somebody that can.
Because they can't eliminate what you do in your house. They can't eliminate what you do at your church. I'll take it even further. We got black churches across this city here that have the infrastructure necessary for them to go get their own schools. And the only people telling them not to do it are these unions and these teachers that work in these institutions. We can't do that. We can't afford to lose no more black kids. These black kids need to be educated and armed because we need them to come to the battlefield ready to fight. So we're talking about D.E.I. and elimination and all that. Let's also talk about the other options you have to arm your own children and make sure we have a brighter future.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Finished it out? All right. I want to thank everyone for coming. This was so enlightening. And, you know, I couldn't wait to have this conversation and many more. Bring a friend. Bring somebody else for the next one that we have. Everybody post and put it out on your social media. Let's get the word out. I think that the topics of discussion that we discussed today are very important for all of us. And we want to keep everybody involved and just build a bigger and better community. It's very important. It always has been, but I see the future changing, and we're being in a position where it's absolutely needed. Like it's no question or no sit back and guess about it, and no, I'm gonna do that next week, or we will be all right today. None of that. It's very important that we love on each other and that we unite and we love on our children and do everything that we can for them. Thank everybody for coming. Thank you to the pull-up experience, for our special guests, Candice Hankins, Colin Jackson, Tequila Hopkins.
No name.
There we go. I'll have my notes. There we go. But I appreciate you all coming, and I appreciate everything that we got from the guests and from everybody here. Everything was very, very valid. And I'm walking away from here feeling excellent today. I'm feeling like there has been some information given to all of us that we can walk away and use, okay? And that's it for me. Peace. It's the pull-up experience. Let's talk about it.